Hello, I am your host Shane with Bitcoin Crypto News Online. I want to talk to you about a serious subject about gold and about Bitcoin. This is going to be a kind of like a little mini documentary where we look at where Bitcoin is, where gold is, and why gold could potentially become trash. Now, I'm going to look at the facts, what's happened, what's happening, and what's going to happen. And we're even going to delve deeper than that into conspiracy theory or however you want to look at it. Is that tie into some people's religious beliefs about what happens in the end of times? I just want to throw that in there because I think it's an interesting subject. So, will they throw their gold into the streets? So, where does that whole analogy come from? We'll talk about that. But if you look at Bitcoin and gold, originally a Bitcoin, it took like thousands of Bitcoins to buy a pizza. That was the first big purchase early on, early in the 2000s, when Bitcoin was first being mined. I don't know, 2010, 11, somewhere around there, when Bitcoin wasn't even a dollar. Back then, it would take probably, half of all the Bitcoins that had been minted to buy a very little gold. In fact, if you look at this chart right here from the visualcapitalist.com, how many ounces of gold will one Bitcoin buy? Okay, let this sink in. Back in 2017, you'd get 0.9 of an ounce. Okay, from 2017 to the bottom of the market in 23, it went up more than 10x. Now a Bitcoin can buy you 9 ounces of gold. It couldn't even buy you one. Now it can buy you 9. In fact, there was a time when it took probably hundreds of Bitcoins, maybe even thousands, to buy 1 ounce when Bitcoin was under $1. And right now, according to this chart right here, you're looking at one Bitcoin at the $69,000 rate, around there, is going to get you, or maybe this is our top. Let's see, where's this top at? That top is 2022, so this is our top right now. So maybe this is 100K, depending on when they updated this. This was updated November 24th, okay? So you could get 35 ounces of gold. At the top, prior to November, 37 ounces. It's probably 40 ounces right now, as high as it is, right? At 109, at the new Bitcoin top, new high, all-time high, probably more. So what does this mean for the future? Why is this happening? Will Bitcoin replace gold as a premier store of value asset in the next decade? It's already happening. I've got some evidence to show you that it's already happening, and in some degree. But here, according to the Yahoo Finance, this Bernstein says, Bitcoin will take the place of gold in the world economy in the next decade. We expect Bitcoin to emerge as the new age premier store of value asset, his firm said. Wall Street investors and corporations have increasingly embraced Bitcoin as a long-term investment. When Bitcoin topped out at $100,000 for the first time, it was a milestone that puts Bitcoin and crypto as a top store value for the world economy and to replace gold. Our conviction, Bitcoin is beyond all cyclical gravitations against the analyst Quantum Colganian wrote. predicting Bitcoin would reach $200,000 by late 2025. Well, look, we're almost in 2025 right now. So the ETFs are part of the reason why this is happening. According to this article here, spot ETFs have accumulated $100 billion since they were launched earlier this year, making the funds the fastest growing ETFs ever. At the same time, business software MicroStrategy has been aggressively pursuing Bitcoin treasury strategy, holding $40 billion of the token on their balance sheet, and many other companies are following suit. Not only that, but countries. I have a business. Our treasury holds Bitcoin. So it is happening. It is happening in mass. All right, so Bitcoin and gold in the S&P. What does that look like? It looks pretty interesting. You can look at the return on investment. Now, this chart, I have arguments with this chart because inflation is going up. So if the S&P is going up 6% and true inflation, your cost of inflation for gas, for housing, for food, insurance, taxes, your true cost is not 6%. When they say they're getting the inflation down below 3%, that's not the cost that most people are absorbing. We all know over the last 4 years that everything costs pretty much twice as much as it used to. Let's face it, okay? Food's more, gas is more, everything's more, okay? Housing's ridiculous. So when it says 6%, it's not even keeping up with the actual cost. Now gold might be. I think some people would argue that 25% per year, things doubling. Yeah, that's about right. It's about right. But Bitcoin, on the other hand, is rising 65% return on investment. And you can see over here, at one point, they were all pretty close, but Bitcoin rose above, and we'll show you some more charts. This is on tradingview.com. If you want to check this out, you just go look up Bitcoin, gold, and the S&P 500 return of investment comparison. So when you look at gold at 25%, why would you have all your money in the S&P and only a little bit in gold and less in Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin? Why would you? It makes no sense, right? It makes no sense. The average return of Bitcoin's been over 50% every year. Now, some years you don't get 50%, but if you take an average, because we know we'll have 3 good years and then we'll have 1 bad year where we actually go down. So if it hits that way. All right. So Bitcoin versus gold, mapping trends and historical data. This you can find on cryptoslate.com. Here we are back in 2019, I believe. You see the correlation here? How closely knit that gold is the blue, the S&P is the yellow, okay? And Bitcoin is this blue right here. It is returning 62%. So compared to the S&P, it's just massive gains over the S&P over time. There it is right there. You can see it all right there. Shows no signs of slowing. CryptoSlate's analysis suggests the current market conditions are echoing the patterns of the 1970s. Prior to that decade, the performance of gold and equities was closely matched. ETFs changed that. However, in an inflationary environment, the 1970s, gold and the dollar came off the gold system, the gold standard. So gold achieved unprecedented growth, soaring over 1,000%. That happened in 1970, 71, when they decoupled, right around there. Of course, it came back down. But this historical trend is what is happening to Bitcoin as well. It's soaring over. But look at this. Look at how close they are coupled now, gold and the market. There's times when one is above the other. According to what we're seeing in the charts, Bitcoin is a long way off from doing that. Fundamental analysis, Bitcoin has shown strong performances relative to gold with an increase of over 100% per year, staggering 430% growth over the last 5 years. This raises questions whether Bitcoin could potentially outperform gold in the same manner that gold outperformed equities in the 1970s. And here you are, gold versus equities. Way above. Way above. And that is going to be a similar thing with Bitcoin, according to what we're seeing right now. Now, I want to look at Bitcoin ETFs versus gold ETFs because we're seeing a pattern. But let's go down the conspiracy road, okay? Let's go down what I call the Bible scriptures that talk about the last day. Here it is, Ezekiel 7:19, talking about those last days. It says, they will throw their silver into the street and their gold will seem unclean. The silver and gold cannot save them in the day of the wrath. They cannot satisfy their appetites or fill their stomachs with their wealth, for it became a stumbling block that brought their inequity. So they're throwing it into the streets because they can't eat it. That's what the Bible predicts. Is that happening now? We're going to look at that. Also, another one here, which I think is kind of interesting, Revelations 13, verse 16 through 18. It says, both small and the great and the free and the bonded receive a mark on the right hand and their forehead, that no man will buy or sell unless he has that mark. And that's where it talks about the mark of the beast, the numbers being 666. I think those are interesting scriptures. I did a whole video on the mark of the beast. You can look it up. It's called, I think it's called as Cryptocurrency, the Mark of the Beast. I think you'll like my thesis on that it's not actually, but it could be used for that. It could be used for that. And then throwing their gold into the streets. I mean, in a way, it looks like that's kind of happening, you know. Gold's ETFs are not keeping up with Bitcoin. The people are moving to Bitcoin because why? Because they're the earnings. Bitcoin ETFs versus gold, the changing safe haven landscape. You can't move gold, right? It's heavy. You can move an ounce or two, but you can move millions of Bitcoin for pennies on the dollar, right? Most of the time. The debate around ETFs versus Bitcoin ETFs is getting a lot of attention. And if you go to rhinobitcoin.com and look up this Bitcoin ETF versus gold ETFs, you can find out all about it. But Bitcoin compared to gold, gold is a great store of value. It needs physical storage, transportation, and protection, security. It's limited in divisibility, in other words, how many times you can divide it, and accessibility. You can't just carry it around with you. Bitcoin's a store of value. It's digital, decentralized. It is globally accessible, easy to store, encrypted digital wallets, if done properly and safely, are very, very secure. Divisible into minute parts of 1/100 millionths. 1/100th of a millionth. So you got 100. Each Bitcoin is divided into 100 million pieces. 100 million. All right, so consider storing $1 million worth of gold versus the same amount of Bitcoin. So you could store the Bitcoin on a USB drive or 12 words that you memorize in your head or inscribe on a piece of metal. I wouldn't recommend putting it on paper, but you could use paper, have multiple copies in fireproof safes in different locations. The gold would be very, very unsecure. It would be, you would have to have an armored truck and guards. If people knew you were moving it, it could be very dangerous and expensive. All you need is internet connection. can be done on your phone, all sorts of other ways of doing it. In addition to the differences that exist between the traits and features of each access, it is worth noting that each commodity's popularity. So that's important. Cryptocurrency is obtainable. I mean, the smallest amount of gold you can buy is probably like 1/10 of an ounce. I've heard of these little gram bars and stuff that you can buy for, you know, $20, $50, but you're really overpaying for the asset. You're really overpaying for it. It's just, you know, I guess it's a way to buy gold if you don't have a lot of budget, but you're paying twice as much for the gold. It's better to buy it in at least 1/10 of an ounce, in my opinion, or bigger. So you pay a premium for 1/10 of an ounce, 1/4 of an ounce. You pay a premium for 1/4 ounce. You pay a little bit more for a 1/2 ounce. You buy it by the ounce, that's going to be probably your best price. Okay. Currently, the market cap for gold is 16.14 trillion. Bitcoin's market cap, well, this says 1.33, but guess what? It's over 2 trillion right now. That means gold is approximately 12 times larger than Bitcoin. Given current trends, Bitcoin's price would have to surpass $800,000 before catching up to gold. But we just read it's already kind of caught up to gold in a way. Bitcoin's ETF launch versus gold ETF launch, we already looked at that. Bitcoin is flying past. What's going to happen in the future? Well, when you look at MicroStrategy and all these other companies that are investing in gold, and within 4 years, their company stock is up hundreds of percent, hundreds and hundreds. It's all the other companies are going to want to do the same thing. When your Bitcoin is earning an average of 50% a year, maybe 100% one year, maybe 0% one year out of 4, you're going to go with a long-term storage. You're going to go with Bitcoin. Okay. With the ETF, you don't have to handle the keys or anything. You just click a button on your broker, account, and there it is. So the ETFs are gaining. People who have retirements are going to want a little Bitcoin in there. BlackRock is saying not 1% Bitcoin, but 2. How long before they go not 2 but 4, not 4 but 5? These are things that people are already talking about. This isn't like pie in the sky. This is already conversations and things that are happening right now. So yeah, gold looks like a relic. The new generations that are growing up, they're used to digital products, digital services, a digital life. So digital gold, digital currency, it's a given. It's a given. Bitcoin ETF list. This is all the companies that have ETFs right now. Look at them. This is only growing by the day. And that's not just one page, by the way. It's 2 pages. Okay? And look at how much they have. This is the smallest one here that we don't know. Okay, this one, yes. They have a lot of assets here. Volume is 3,755. Bitcoin ETF. Year to date, it's gone up 1,600%. Volume's 1,700 Bitcoins. That's a lot of Bitcoins. I mean, it's only going to grow. As the rest of the world opens up to these investment holdings, what's going to happen? People are going to go into this. If I've got 5 or 10% in gold, why wouldn't I put a little bit more in maybe take 1% out of the stock market and 1% out of gold and put it into cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, maybe Ethereum, maybe something like that, into an ETF? Why wouldn't I? I'd be stupid not to. In fact, the hedge managers, the fund managers people are getting mad at them because they're not offering them the products. So all these different funds are being forced in offering them. JP Morgan, companies like that kind of held out. Now they have to do it. They have to offer it. All right? It's just the way it's going to go. You look at the president of, is it Ecuador or Venezuela? He just found that he's got $100 million worth of gold in the ground. He's going to dig it up, and you know what he's going to do with it? He's going to sell it and buy Bitcoin. So there's a real possibility that gold's value could go down. I had a bunch of charts that showed the use case of gold. So only about 8% of gold is used for, making things, electronics. Most of it is jewelry and storage of wealth. Okay, people use it as a source of value. Okay, it is a treasury. It's a store of value. They can pretty much count on if they sell the gold, they'll get all their money back out of it. And that it will keep up with the dollar overall. Maybe even be a safe haven when the dollar drops. Well, Bitcoin is definitely that, because it goes up like crazy when the dollar buying power drops. Now that interest rates are going down, that means more money is out there. More money is created. And that devalues all our money. So it takes more money to buy something when they do that. That's just fiat currency, how it works. Well, when that happens, Bitcoin goes up because of that alone. That alone will make it go up, just printing more dollars for us in the U.S. or whatever country you're in, okay? So all this rest of this gold, 70-something% of that gold held as a store of value, why would I hold very much of it, a large percentage of it? Why would I hold it as opposed to holding Bitcoin? Why would I settle for 20% over, over the 60-something% we saw for Bitcoin? It just makes no sense. It makes no sense. So we are going to see people getting out of gold and putting their investments in other assets. We are seeing ETFs drop off right now and surpass gold. It says Bitcoin ETF overtakes gold, reaching 129 billion, signing a shift in institutional investments. Bitcoin ETFs have surpassed gold ETFs in total assets under management, with Bitcoin funds reaching 129 million. It's already happened. It's already surpassing in this AUM. Estanfando, I'm saying that wrong. Gomez is the one who tells us about this in the cryptobriefing.com. You can look that up. That just came out recently, December 18th. Bitcoin ETFs surpassed gold ETFs in AUM. So there you go. BlackRock shares in Bitcoin Trust, iShares, is a market leader, managing 60 billion. You saw all those other companies doing it. There's billions and billions more. The milestone comes less than a year after spot Bitcoin ETFs launched in January following the SEC's approval. Accordingly, ETF analyst Eric Balchunas, when including all Bitcoin ETF types, spot, future, leverage, the total amount's 130 billion, with spot Bitcoin ETFs accounting for 120 billion compared to spot gold's 125 billion. So the total amounts, when you count all these leverage, spots, futures, it's more than gold right now. It's already happened. It's already flipped it. Now, just the gold ETF compared to the Bitcoin ETF has a ways to go. But there you go. This surge reflects investors seeking alternatives amid geopolitical and economic uncertainty driven by concerns of inflation, government deficits, and geopolitical instability. What do you think is going to happen when America starts hoarding Bitcoin? Other countries are going to do it like crazy. It's already starting to happen. So, yeah, I don't think gold will become totally worthless, but I think we are going to see Bitcoin flip on the ETFs overall. I think we are going to see more and more people putting a larger amount of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in their savings and their investments, and gold is going to I wouldn't want to be in the gold business in the next 5 years. I just don't think it'd be a great business. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this. Something to think about for investments. None of this is investment advice, so do your own research. But I definitely think that this is going to have effect on gold, and I think it's an interesting subject. I want to tie this into a series of videos that looks at the effect of Bitcoin at a higher level than it just being something that makes you money, that people are getting rich quick or whatever, or that it's a fake digital thing that needs to be ignored. I don't think any of those courses of action are wise for someone who is looking to be better financially in the long run, for them and their family to just blow all this stuff off and not look at it and think about it and consider it and do your own research, I think is unwise. The world is changing. Bitcoin is here. It is going to stay. And please like and subscribe. I appreciate your time. Check out our news, usually Monday through Friday, and our special edition articles such as this one that will be on subjects. And also we could do coin reviews or mining, different things like that, politics, things like that. So thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this. And don't throw your gold in the streets, by the way. It's not trash yet. I don't think it ever will be complete trash, but it won't be something you can eat, and it won't be something you can take with you, and it will not be the dominant ETF. And it will lose value since Bitcoin has come into town. I guarantee that. Goodbye.